You bring the party because the party's all night long.
All right, the album is called Mortal Era. It's coming soon. I don't know what number project this is that I've done, but that's an excerpt from the introduction of the album, and the mini album is being worked. We worked on it this week. I'm so happy about that, and I'm going to run some tests on the listening part and figure out which parts can stay and which parts don't stay. But interesting week this week. A lot of things happened this week. Trump is still doing executive orders. Betsy DeVos finally got elected in education. One senator, I guess it was a senator, tweeted that she killed children if she was elected. They had a Black Lives Matter protester actually stay in front of the vehicle. Oh my gosh. Just childish rhetoric from the left and just total stupidity. You know, one thing is like everybody's talking about, what do you think about Betsy DeVos? I'm like, what do I think about the Department of Education? Get rid of it. Abolish it. You know, it's not like libertarians, they don't give a care about the Department of Education. You know, we need to cut back. If you would hear my plan on schooling, all this stupid extra stuff that our taxpayers are being drained of, from contracts to cafeteria contracts, which we really don't need, which, I mean, as bad as the defense contractors that are making billions and billions of dollars off these wars. Then you have these contractors with the cafeteria in these public schools making billions and billions of dollars, leeching off the local taxpayers' money and everybody else's taxpayer money. And things like that are just disgusting. I think we have the first bit coming up. So we're going to listen to this. I guess I'm saying this.
With us to discuss that is LaRhonda Hunter, who owns
I'm Jake
5
Tepper.
hair
I have to
salons
poop.
in Texas. LaRhonda?
Under the controls of Obamacare, my business has been restricted from expansion. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I own 5 fantastic Sam's
I got a
hair
tweet from
salons.
Secular Talk to read afterward.
We employ between 45 and
Is that the lesser
48
Judd sister?
employees. My original plan was to open more salons and employ more people. However, under Obamacare, I am restricted because it requires me to furnish health insurance if I employ more than 50 people.
I don't understand economics.
Unfortunately, the profit margin in my industry is very thin, and I'm not a wealthy person, so it's impossible for me to grow my business. My question to you, Senator Sanders, is how do I grow my business? How do I employ more Americans
when he leers
without
out of that
either
podium.
raising the prices to my customers or lowering wages to my
Like the
employees?
vultures in the Jungle Book.
LaRhonda.
Okay. You own 5 salons,
That's correct.
and you employ close to 50 people.
Just under.
And what kind of health insurance do you provide to them?
Zero.
None.
You provide no health insurance to them.
Correct.
He's going to vilify her. Watch.
Let me give you an answer you will not be happy with. And that is, I think that for businesses that employ 50 people or more, given the nature of our dysfunctional healthcare system right now, where most people do get their health insurance through the places that they work, I'm sorry. I think that in America today, everybody should have health care. And if you have more than 50 people, you know what? I think I'm afraid to tell you.
You
I
piece
think
of
you will have to
shit.
provide health
You
my
insurance.
piece of
question is,
shit.
how do
You
I
have
do
3
that
houses,
without
one that's
raising
only
my
40
prices to
minutes
my
from the other one up on
customers or
Lake
lowering wages to my
Champlain.
employees?
You
See, the
piece of
difficulty
shit.
also
You don't even ask her about her
is
profit
what
margins.
the next
You don't even
one
ask her how many people she employs, how many of them are part-time, how many of them have been forced on to working part-time because of Obamacare, because of the current laws that force small businesses. Again, 50 people is not a lot at all. You piece of shit. And this is so clear right now when he tries to say we're talking about the multi-billion-dollar corporations, we're talking about the big people. This woman probably barely earns a 6-figure income, if that. I wouldn't be surprised if most years she makes less than those 50 employees that she's talking about. You piece of shit. Everyone watching this show right now knows somebody who probably
what
has
we've
a
got
business
here. This
on
is
that
Steven
scale of
Crowder
size.
going off on Bernie Sanders, and what has happened is this beautician owner, you know, she owns beauticians, like 5 of them, or hair salons. Let's call them hair salons, and she employs, of course, anybody who knows how the hair salon usually works. You have to sometimes in some of these hair salons you have to rent a chair. A lot of times, I don't know if that's her type of environment. A lot of it is very capitalistic. Is the way most of the barber shops and the hair salons work. Is you got a chair and you pay rent for that chair. So I don't know if this is her situation, or it could be that she owns these salons and she pays these people by the hour. The bottom line is Bernie Sanders looks terrible here. Let me explain what I'm trying to say here. Here's a woman that probably had to sacrifice a lot to start this business. And if you watch more of the video, and you can go to the links and look at what she's saying, if you go to the Poxy Likes blog, you will see this entirety of this video and see how mean and cruel Bernie Sanders looked. Ted Cruz debated him in this debate about health care. Bernie Sanders, of course, wants a totally socialist package. We didn't even get that with Obamacare. Obamacare is just forced insurance companies that the government, the civil government, decides that you can have. That's basically what Obamacare is. And if you don't get any insurance, you are fined. You are taxed. And many of these companies take the penalty. And I'm talking about small business companies, like I've worked for. They have taken the penalty instead of getting the insurance so that they can keep their business alive. And at one time, some of the insurance were affordable because you had true capitalism. You had more insurance companies to choose from, and you chose the one that mattered to you. Like, I don't need 9 months off as a man to be maternity leave. I know that's probably exaggerating late, but that's a lot of these coverages that they required for you to be in Obamacare were stupid stuff that people really didn't need. And before Obamacare, you could say, well, you know, I'm 21, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't need a lot of these stupid stuff that you're providing. It's like with me, the chance of me ever getting married is 99%, you know, the time is over, it's past. So buying things that are family related to me in an insurance policy is ridiculous. Now, if it covered my, you know, I was going to say something nasty, but if it covered things that were important to me as a single person, more or less my biggest fear living out in Trump country is hitting a deer. So that's one of the things that is probably one of the tragic things that happens living in Trump country. Living out in La La Land, you have different things. This is the reason why states' rights is so important. Of course, we have our own insurance in my state. Thank God we're not under Obamacare. But the rest of you losers, and I say losers not in a good way. I say losers because they put you in this position. You have this Obamacare where you don't have the choice of your doctor. You don't have the choice of your coverage. Why? Because it's brought up in different packages, and the civil government decides which insurance company stays and which ones goes. That's disgusting. And that's not true capitalism. And that's not true Americanism. It's disgusting.
Pocahontas Warren is all over leftist media. She's receiving accolades and cheers and attaboys and attagirls, and you keep it up, Liz. You keep it up, and she's livid and she's fit to be tied. And in the midst of all this, she thought it necessary to send me a message. In the midst of all this anger, who is on her mind? None other than your beloved host, the all-knowing, all-caring, all-sensing Maharishi. It happened this morning on The View. And this is just one of the many stops that Pocahontas has made since having been made famous as a screeching ranter last night on the floor of the Senate. Here is what happened.
Rush Limbaugh has famously said, oh, all this marching and protesting, they're all going to get tired of it. Do you think we're going to get tired?
No, Rush, we are not going to get tired. We are here to stay.
I know you'll never get tired.
Not only are you going to get tired of it, it's going to rebound negatively on all of you. You people are digging your grave even deeper with all of this. You just don't know it. They really don't. This stuff is not going to stop Trump. It is not going to stop the Republicans. It's not going to reverse the outcome of the election. And it's not going to set them up for better improvements in 2018 or 2020.
When I was first starting, you're listening to Rush Limbaugh there talking about Elizabeth Warren. And when I first started doing this, and a lot of people were afraid that, I was instilling fear. And they were saying you're just as bad as the left because you're not using logic. And now you see people. Here's the thing about this. When Barack Obama was in power and threatening to take away guns, it brought gun sales up. Now you have these anarchists and leftists out there trying to start trouble, instilling violence. Gun sales are going to go back up. You're defeating the whole purpose of what you do. It's so disgusting. And when I see this Elizabeth Warren getting on here beating a dead horse, because that's what she does. Okay, I'm tired of hearing it. I'd probably say 3 out of 5 of the clips today are going to have some sort of response to racism, which is we're tired of hearing it. It's old. One thing that, it seems like the left is based on lies. And the more you lie, the more false fear that you put into people, the more people are leaving the movement of the left. We're seeing, there's another clip that you're going to hear talking about this. Elizabeth Warren, of course, went on to the podium in the Senate and started wanting to read a letter by the late Dr. King's wife, in which she reprimands or does not want to endorse the 1986, judgeship that was awarded to Jeff Sessions. So Mitch McConnell and the whole House, which has rules, or the Senate has rules. Basically, you're not supposed to denigrate or insult another senator. I have to look more into it. And so she is silenced by Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Senate, basically. And it's necessary because some of the attacks have become personal. And you're not supposed to, the attack on Jeff Sessions should be logical. When it gets right down to insulting another one's ideology and not really taking a step in worrying about the Constitution. That's what the problem is with the left. If the left would get up there and talk about the Constitution and why Jeff Sessions was unconstitutional, like Rand Paul opposed him. I have read an article about what Rand Paul did in voting for Jeff Sessions. He was more influenced by the fact that the left was so upset about Jeff Sessions that he felt he had to speak his mind, to not let these win. And this is what happens is the left taking this too personal. It'll get to the point where people are going to the right because they can't stand this whining over things that are not important. Agreed that racism may be a bad ideology, and it is. Let's put it, the definition of racism is the belief that one race is superior to another. So every day I've got to sit here and listen to these people lie. They're lying to you when they say that certain conservatives, because they want fiscal responsibility, is racism. It's wrong. It's a blatant lie. When they try to tell you that a man who dresses up like a woman is a blatant lie. Biology tells you that man is a woman. So why in the world should I embrace a movement that won't accept the truth? You want to talk about degrading. Nothing is more degrading and lying than accusing someone's ideology as being racist. And then sit there and say that's a reason why you're going against, when you know yourself they're not racist. The Democratic Party, which was founded on the KKK values, the Democratic Party, which is founded on white supremacy, trying to tell me about morality. That's what's disgusting. The same people who allow a pervert in the bathroom with 6 years old trying to preach to me about morality. That's what people are having trouble with. And plus, even if you are a racist, and hold the phone, folks, he's gonna say it. You have that right to be a racist in this country. You have a First Amendment right in this country to exist. I'm not gonna sit here and try to denigrate the white supremacist movement when we have just as many black supremacists out there. We have self-loathing white supremacist people out there that basically hate their own race, who hate what God has made them. Sean King is the biggest example of people hating what God made them to be. And they're not doing this for the sake of morality. They're doing this just to tick you off. There's no love in these people's eyes. There's no forgiveness in these people's eyes. These are basically evil. And these are basically attacks against you that are personal. It's like when I work in the business. I'm going to tell you about a job where I work. If the person wants me to do the job, I do the job the best of my ability. Now, if a person doesn't like me personally, it doesn't matter as long as I do the job. That's what. But I had a manager that had personal attacks against me. That's not how you run a business. That's not how you run civil government. Of personally attacking an ideology to the point where you just want to destroy. They just wanted to destroy this country. And it's nothing but pure evil that you're feeling what's going on right now. And Elizabeth Warren going on there saying stuff like this and going on. She's beating a dead horse and we're tired of hearing it. Let's move on. Attack Jeff Sessions' constitutional record? Yes. More power to you. Go do it. But to sit there and just beat a dead horse that we've heard over and over again because you've lost the argument. Because once they yell racism, you've won the argument. And that's the truth.
by getthetea.com. A powerful detox tea to support your health.
Well, it looks like Milo Yiannopoulos, who identifies himself as the world's most dangerous faggot, just got the best revenge ever after haters burned Berkeley and then blamed him for the violence. According to the Conservative Tribune, they report that if the rioters at the University of California, Berkeley, if they stopped being mere protesters once, fires were set and innocent people assaulted, and hoped to silence controversial conservative speaker Milo Yiannopoulos on Wednesday night, well, then they seriously miscalculated the effects of their efforts. Listen to this. Rather than force Milo into a veritable exile of silence in the political wilderness, as they had hoped, they report the rioters only succeeded in bringing even more attention and popularity to the bane of politically correct progressivism. They report here that Zero Hedge picked up on the story that pre-order sales for Milo's new book, Dangerous, increased by roughly 12,740% in just one night, vaulting the book from 642 to the top 5 of Amazon's best-seller list. I should also point out that his YouTube statistics exploded with 16,000
Okay, that was an excerpt,
new
I guess, from
subscribers in one
Newsnext
day.
Network, or
because of the
it's a
action.
YouTube channel. You can check it out. I'll try to get some links. If you go to Poxy Likes, you can probably see all these clips and bits on there. So just go to Poxy Likes, which is our blog, and you can see these things yourself and see what you think. Now, what happened is, of course, Berkeley was one of the most violent protests we've had so far for Milo Yiannopoulos from his Dangerous Faggot tour, where he has been attacked, protest-like ways. But this was just disgusting. We're talking about property damage. We're talking about so many things, people hurt. It's just a terrible, terrible situation that we're dealing with. And Berkeley is, of course, what has been told over and over again, is the birthplace of free speech, so forth and so forth. As long as the speech don't hurt us. I'm not one of those. I don't embrace the leftist ideology. I'm for protesting. Don't get me wrong. If people want to go on strike, if their boss is, a jerk, go on strike. I'm all for it. If people do things that are wrong, you need to act accordingly to when someone speaks, you do not hit them. Okay. That's what's so dumb about the left, is getting to a childish behavior. See, that's why a child acts. If you're called the N-word, you shouldn't attack someone just because someone calls you the N-word. I'm sorry. That's freedom of speech. Someone wants to call you a F-word, whatever the F-word is, you don't respond like a child. That's the way a child responds. People are going to call you names. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never harm me. That's the truth. Oh, it does harm me. What happens is eventually you'll get used to these words and they'll just slide right off. I'm trying to tell you, when you're younger, it's hard to adjust. It's like the first time that my organization or the people that I represent, the ideology, it was called racist. It's really offended, but after a while, you're just tired of hearing it. We're still on the subject because it's funny, to the point we're just laughing at people calling us racist when we're not. And it's like the boy who cried wolf. I mean, the Democrats on the left are going to have to try something else besides racist, okay? They're going to have to do something else, My thing is, I was sitting there talking about a long time ago, and I'm not making this up. I really did. I said, if they're going to use racism, why don't we come up with something that just is horrifying to call them? And the result was pedophile. And because, you take the sexuality that they're imposing on young kids. Can you imagine 8-year-olds being taught sex education? That's a horrible imagery, especially from the civil government. The civil government has no place in teaching sex education. So that's the parents' job. I'm sorry, parents, get off your butt and teach your kids about sex. Don't let the TV or the civil government do it, or Hollywood, okay? So what you need to do is try your best to do the right thing and teach your children about morality. Don't let the civil government do it. Don't let Hollywood do it. You do it yourself. So basically, the same thing I felt like, since we've got so much pedophilia type behavior in the left group, if you go to these queer senators that are out there, these disgusting, they're with these 15-year-old prostitutes. I mean, this has been uncovered. And the problem is it's not just the Democrats, it's also the Republicans are involved in this pedophilia as well. So that's what I think about the Pizzagate situation, is even though it was a total attack about the establishment, it is a great and direct response for being called racist for not being an establishment. Because I think when it gets down to it, this election had been about the establishment versus the non-establishment. See, there was a memo that was put out by the American people, and they said, okay, anybody but Bush and Clinton. So the Republicans got the memo, and they said, okay, anybody but Bush and Clinton. So all these people went to run. About 16 of them, I believe, or 16 or 17 of them went to run. The major ones, about 17 of them. And people voted, and of course went by the memo, anybody but Clinton. Okay? So, and Bush. And so, bam, the lever was pulled, anybody but Bush. And it was Donald Trump. That was the answer. The answer was, he was a name, and people are so stupid. The Republicans were smart in realizing that the majority of Americans are dumb. They don't vote for politics. They vote for the name. They vote for looks. They don't sit there and decide. So when it comes to strategy, Republicans were intelligent in deciding someone that people knew. So same reason why the Ronald McDonald House is called the Ronald McDonald House, because kids knew Ronald McDonald. So the guy who started the Ronald McDonald House decided to put Ronald McDonald's name on it because people knew who Ronald McDonald is. And it's a great charity, and I bring it up because I believe I do donate to the Ronald McDonald House. I'm a big believer. It is a good organization, and good private organizations need to be funded like that. And so the same way the Republicans decided, well, there's a name. And I'm not talking about the Republican establishment, because they said the establishment, I don't want. Then on the other side, the Democrats said anybody but Clinton. And it seemed like the media didn't get the memo. The Democratic Party didn't get the memo. They even sabotaged the convention to make sure Bernie Sanders didn't have a chance. They sabotaged the Democratic process, and plus Bernie was way out there left anyways. There was so many celebrities that could have ran, didn't run, didn't want to give up their $2 million per picture, or $14 million per picture, or $100 million per picture, which they make. So they're not going to sacrifice for you guys. So they could have ran, but they chose Clinton, which the memo said anybody but Bush and Clinton. I think it was clear also that fear was already put in that nobody wanted Hollywood either, especially leftist Hollywood, when Ashley Judd just chickened out and didn't run against Mitch McConnell, which I thought was hilarious. So basically, Democrats got the memo, didn't listen to the American people, and they lost. And that's what happened. And we talk about why this, I will say majority, I may be wrong on this, but a lot of those people that are protesting didn't even vote in the first place. Take my word for it. We'll be back with another clip.
saw this tweet with a brand new trailer that came out just 3 hours ago from Netflix of a show called Dear White People. And it's just showing how on University, how racist white people are, and the black people are the heroes of this story. Because white people are all doing blackface on Halloween, and etc., etc. Insert whatever stereotypical racist white person. Every white person in this trailer is apparently racist.
We follow 4 black students in an Ivy League school, and they're just going to show us just how difficult it is to be a black person in America.
Because
apparently,
every white person is racist.
Doing blackface at every single party.
This is actually based on a movie in 2014 called Dear White People. We watched the trailer of that movie, and if this is any indication of what this Netflix television show is going to be, it's going to be god-awful.
Which 2 years ago, it might have seemed a little bit more reasonable, because there was a whole thing about, okay, we need to have that voice, but you can't bring this back, especially after 2016. How do you think this is going to benefit anything, given the regressive left and the shit that they've done? How do you see this going over? If we were to change the title to Dear Black People.
Oh, God!
How do you think? And I've said this before.
Netflix would have shut down. Netflix, yeah,
Andy
we said this on the
Worski
Dear White
talking
People
about
MTV video.
The Dear White People, you can check it out. It's on the link. Which we're talking about a trailer that has been released on Netflix. Now, we already talked about the MTV Dear White People. Jess DeFranco, whatever his name is, kind of defended that this is talking about a parody of all this, that this is really, it's stupid. Let's put it out this way. I don't even know. It seems like I said, this is vindicative, evil attack. This is not love. They keep on talking about love trumps hate. This is hate. This is all this is. It's just attacking a race, whatever you want to do. And there is this basically movie that was out, and I haven't seen it. Now, I can't really judge because I don't know Hollywood, their ideology. Are there some people, because if you look back at the history of Hollywood, there's more racism in the history of Hollywood than there is in the history of the South when it gets down to it. Because here's the thing about them, they want to jump over the South and everything. We have more really common sense black people in the South. We have more likable black people here in the South. You get up north, they automatically think if you're from the South, you're racist. And I know this because I worked with a guy from Brooklyn, and I worked with all these Yankees. There is this horrible racial division up north, and it's the same way in Hollywood. You'll see this white Beverly Hills that doesn't want to have anything to do with the black community. Things like, so I don't know. Maybe this is a pro-white movie that's coming out. It could be a pro-black movie that's coming out. I don't know. Okay. It's a TV show. We don't know because we're not. But the point is, people are so tired of this because it creates more division than it does unity in this country right now. And I'm so sick of people who have not studied their history. They want to get upset about 25%. 2% of the 25%, which was the highest rank of slavery in this country. And 2% of that 25% were black. No one knows the percentage of Native Americans that owned slaves. But we do know, statistically, that 2% of that 25%, the highest rate, and that's the reason why the Civil War happened, because it just grew from like 11% of people who owned slaves in this country to 25%. And then it was time to do something. Then they don't think about the 77% that went to war to stop this thing. And they were white and Native American and black that joined together to get rid of slavery. Do I get a thank you for that? Do I get a congratulations, white people, for delivering us from slavery? No. I get blamed for the minority of what happens in this country. The same way the blacks get the anger towards them for what maybe the minority of blacks do negative things in this country. It's stereotyping. It's terrible, and it needs to stop on both sides of the argument. It's done, okay? Your argument is over with. It's trying to justify. You know what it's like? Okay, you take the cop, and I remember when I was a kid, there used to be a cop used to meet at this little uniform shop on taxpayers' money, and we used to joke about it, how the cops are trying to justify their jobs. This is what the left is doing. They're trying to instill racism in this country, this race baiting, to get you upset so they can say, you see, this is the reason why we need leftists. This is the reason why we need big civil government to protect the other people. This is the reason why we need racism, where we give black people jobs and not white people jobs because of this, because see, there's still racism. And I've said it before, even if you are racist, you have a right to exist in this country. You have a right to hate white people. You have a right to hate black people in this country. You have a right to hate Asian people. You have a right to hate Jewish people. You have a right to hate Muslims in this country. You have a right to hate Christians in this country. Why? Because they're ideologies. They are religions that are protected by the First Amendment. But you don't have a right to hurt an individual. You don't have a right to punch a racist. You don't have a right to punch anyone in this country. You need to be reprimanded. You need to be rebuked every time you do violence against another person. And this is what makes you so mad with, I don't even want to say dear black people, because I would be stereotyping an entire race. It would be terrible. And again, if you watch the movie in 2014, they address this issue. I don't know about this movie, but I'm just saying, I think a lot of this is vindictive. I do think this is malicious. I think this is to stir up hate in this country, which we don't need at this time. And they keep on preaching, Trump, love Trump's hate, love Trump's hate. And they're the biggest haters. They're the ones punching conservatives. They're the one that's stabbing people. They're the ones that tearing up property. And that you paid for with your taxpayers' money. You didn't ask for those street lights, but you pay for them. And they destroy them. And we could go into the conspiracy theory about the anarchists and whatever have you, and I don't give a care. But what it gets into when you have these leftists join with these violent protesters, that is something that is where it's getting to. And here I am in Trump country. No, I'm not scared because I live in Trump country. Where's the most violent communities are? Black communities. But instead of addressing that issue, we're going to worry about white man and blackface. I'm sorry, a white man in blackface is less likely to kill and rape somebody than a black man killing another black man. You're more or less, as a black person, going to be killed by another black person than you are a man in a blackface. So where should your anger be? The anger should be at the man that's going to try to kill you. And that's the reason why we have a Second Amendment, folks. If you want to protect yourself against blacks as a black person, carry a gun. If you want to protect yourself against whites, carry a gun. If you want to protect yourself against big government, carry a gun. That's the reason why the Second Amendment's out there.
Baby.
A war.
Baby.
A drill.
Baby.
A war.
Baby.
A drill.
Baby.
A war. A drill.
Do you believe in free speech? Do you believe that people should be judged by their character, not their skin color? Do you believe in freedom of religion? If you believe these things, you're probably not a progressive. You might think you're a progressive. I used to think I was. My show, The Rubin Report, was originally part of the Progressive Young Turks network. Progressives struck me as liberals, but louder. Progressives were the nice guys. They looked out for the little guy. They cared about women and minorities. They embraced change. In short, who wouldn't want to be a progressive? But over the last couple of years, the meaning of the word progressive has changed. Progressives used to say, I may disagree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. Not anymore. Banning speakers whose opinions you don't agree with from college campuses, that's not progressive. Prohibiting any words not approved of as politically correct, that's not progressive. Putting trigger warnings on books, movies, music, anything that might offend people, that's not progressive either. All of this has led me to believe that much of the left is no longer progressive, but regressive. This is one of the reasons I've spent so much time on my show talking about the regressive left. This regressive ideology doesn't judge people as individuals, but as a collective. If you're black or female or Muslim or Hispanic or member of any other minority group, you're judged differently than the most evil of all things, a white Christian male. The regressive left ranks minority groups in a pecking order to compete in a kind of oppression Olympics. Gold medal goes to the most offended. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream that his children would be judged by their character and not their skin color was a liberal idea, but these days it's not a progressive ideal. And what about religious freedom, the idea that no one else can tell you what you have to believe? Surely progressives still support that basic right. Well, not so much. I'm a married gay man, so you might think that I appreciate the government forcing a Christian baker or photographer or florist to act against their religion in order to cater, photograph, or decorate my wedding. But you'd be wrong. A government that can force Christians to violate their conscience can force me to violate mine. If a baker won't bake you a cake, find another baker. Don't demand that the state tell him what to do with his private business.
That was Rubin from the Rubin Report. And you can check his stuff out. He is a leftist who has left the left, basically. Pro-choice, pro-gay marriage, pro all the things that not conservative. And what has happened is he's talking about, and again, this is where we're talking about the fear installation and something I don't want to be guilty of. I live in Trump country, and let me explain when I say I live in Trump country, meaning that I'll walk out and be attacked by a chicken before I would get attacked by a protest. So I don't want to instill fear out there, but I do see, if I look at the videos and things out there, that I don't want to live out in Hillary country. Okay. There is no part of me that says, gee, I want to visit Los Angeles. I was for many years, a anime convention photographer and a videographer, and I'd go to these conventions and so forth. So I did want to go to the bigger cities to do the videos and the interviews and things like that we did. But now, seeing these things, I'm so glad I stay in the little. I go to these smaller conventions still today, and I'll probably go to another smaller convention. I'm not into the big ones. And it's so different. They're normal people. And you go out to these bigger cities, it just like the ideology has beat them over the head. They're bullied into some of this ideology. They're taught 24/7. That's the reason why, I say abolish Department of Education, because we're sending kids to state schools, and what happens is you get status. And there is no thinking. And what they do with the fear to try to change the way, it's like I said, Mississippi ought to teach the kids the way they all want to. And Mississippi wants to teach creation schools. Let them teach creation schools. Let New York teach evolution in schools. Let them do it. That's where we should be in this country. We should be allowing other votes in this whole thing. And it's like when being forced teachers to say, you got to teach this curriculum and blah, 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 and this kind of thing. And it gets, And so the ideology is pumped every day to get the federal funding from the federal government. That's the reason the federal government should not be in the education, because what happened is you start creating status, you start creating these zombies of children who taught over again. So like the curriculum also has been taught from just basic math to morality. So, and their morality is so blurred, it's crazy. It's like I said, this is the reason why people don't like the left right now is imagine allowing, like I said, the transgender issue. I hate beating a dead horse. Like, I'd hate to be like Elizabeth Warren. But you take this pervert who wants to go in the bathroom in Target to go look at little girls in the bathroom. This is okay. But then we're going to talk about how that you shouldn't wear a Halloween costume that, represents a Native American or whatever.
You shouldn't be dressed up like a Native American. How dare you? It's so disgusting. Now, let that man in the bathroom with a 6-year-old girl.
So, I mean, if you have problems with dressing up with a Native American and you don't want a 40-year-old ugly pervert in with the bathroom with a 6-year-old girl, I've got more respect for you. But don't preach to me about not wearing a Native American costume and then at the same time allow a 6-year-old. And plus, you're talking about private property. Let me explain something. I think one of the biggest things our founders wanted, if you study their history, is about property. And if you own a business, that's your property. And you should be able to do whatever you want to. You should be able to bar perverts who dress up like in dresses from going into a 6-year-old bathroom. At the same time, you should be allowed. And I respect Target for doing it. But I have the right as a customer to say, I'm not going to go to Target and go there. I wouldn't want to go there. I don't want to support that kind of thing. It's a message to send to them, say, hey, no, we don't want this social justice BS where you're allowing things like this happen. And people will say, about boycott. No, you have a right in this country to boycott, and the left has a right to boycott. Right has a right to boycott. I don't understand this whole thing about not boycotting an industry. One guy was trying to say that, you're taking the food out of someone else's mouth. Yes, that's the idea. As a salesperson, I was a salesperson for about 20 years, basically, in every job. I don't care what job, you're technically a salesperson in every job. But if I went on a political rampage about certain things at my job, I'm not going to be supported. It's like Steven Crowder was talking about. He had this, talking about if you did what the left did and these actors, you would probably lose your job. There's a lot of us as conservative bloggers who have to kind of hide our identity from a regular job. And the reason why we do this is because if people knew the politics, they'd probably lose their job. I would not make it in probably non-Trump country. If I will say that the people I work with, as mean as they are, as rude as they are, they probably agree with me 90% of my ideology. The only reason was sometimes some of them are pro-union folks. That's what amazes you. Probably a lot of the pro-union voted for Trump. And that's the reason why Trump's in there, because they're hoping to protect their jobs. And if you look at the origin of the union and different things like that, you'll find that it's about protecting the job. So when it gets down, when this Trump comes in there talking about the union and protecting the jobs, he's just this working guy. I see a lot of what Trump says, and a lot of people get mad. He's like, he don't talk right. Yeah, that's the point. That's the reason why people elected him. He talks like Bob at the bar. And that's the regular guy. You feel like with him, that's a guy that, the Bob can go have a beer with. You don't feel that way with the leftists. The leftists is, ew, beer, ew, you're heterosexual, ew. And you're like, ooh, you're stupid. You're like, but that's what happens. And it's even hurting the liberals that need to be part of the movement of the left.
Okay, you're right.
Do you think America's innocent? Seriously? After what I just said about the Iraq War? Do you think that's innocent?
No, but I just think that
America has done bad things. Sorry, everybody.
No. But how come?
So is my country.
Putin. That's not that. Putin is a brutal dictator.
He just said America's not innocent.
There's no comparison.
Yes, but it was in response to a question when Bill O'Reilly said Putin's a killer, and he said, "Yeah, a lot of people are killers. You think we're so innocent?"
I don't think America is innocent. Britain's not
you're
innocent.
Right. This is something Noam Chomsky says.
Yeah.
It just shows that the Republican...
Is that good or bad? Sorry.
Well, it just shows the Republican Party has no principles. No principles. It's just about who wins.
Right.
Well,
it's amazing.
As opposed to the Democrats.
What?
As opposed to the Democrats who are currently behaving in exactly the histrionic way that they warned us Trump and his supporters would behave when they lost.
This goes back
exactly the same way.
This goes back to what Bill was saying. This is not business as usual. We have someone who is disrespecting the people of this country.
He's been called mentally insane and an idiot tonight.
But it means it's time to riot.
But it's not.
Really.
It's not time to riot.
Yeah,
it's time to calm down.
We do need a resistance.
It's time to take a chill pill and calm down.
It's not.
It is.
You know what? You're so British.
This is going to be one of my favorite clips of all time. Piers Morgan just totally lays it a line on Bill Maher. And we're talking about the reason why Donald Trump doesn't talk like every other politician is because they didn't want a politician. And like I said, this is Bob at the tavern. But I don't want Bob at the thing. Well, we've given 30, 40 years to the... we've given almost 200 years to these establishment people. I'm not going to sit here and defend Trump because I have before and I really shouldn't. But because, he'll eventually do something unconstitutional, have to go up against him. But that's just the way it is, folks. And you have to stop, pretending like these people are perfect, that they're angels, and that there's hope in the politics. There isn't. There is no hope in politicians. There's no hope in civil government. If civil government was the answer, then the question was really, really stupid. Let's face it. So the hope is changing the people to be better citizens and better countrymen, better civilians. And the only way you can do that is going by your roots, going by the foundations that this country was going on. But you know the answer. You know where to look. If you don't study your history, you will eventually relive your history. You will relive the history that where it has gone. And this is what has happened here. We have deniers of history. We have people say, oh, no, you should have just said because it's written by... That's the reason why you can go to the library and look at different views. You can go to the library and look at Winthrop's view of the early settlers. You can go to the library and look at Bradford's view of history. Don't talk about history to me if you don't study your history. You can go and look at Benjamin Franklin's view of the Revolution. You can go look at George Washington's view of the thing. And you can compare and contrast. And that's what the beauty of this country is. You have that freedom to do it. We waste our time on silly things. We waste our time on the things. I always remember George Orwell's 1984. What did he talk about? He talked about people were busy and leisure, so it was easy for the civil government to take over. If I get up there talking about celebrities, it will get lots of views, and majority of it is to defend the celebrity. Majority of the time. I did a video of Steve Harvey. I did audio twice of it. It was blocked because it was copyrighted. But people had a hissy fit. They were more upset about what Steve Harvey said, which he said nothing derogatory. And then he was forced an apology about a joke that he made. But people more concerned about that than we've got 6 or 7 countries being bombed through executive orders than anymore. And really the president has too much power, whether it be Donald Trump or Obama or Bush or Clinton or whatever. We have given the president too much power, and our founders are probably turning over in their grave of what we've done. We've gotten too involved with other countries we shouldn't got involved with, which George Washington at his farewell address said, I don't want any part of the European. You should leave that, because he knew how Britain was. He knew how the British had their hands in imperialism, and he didn't want anything to do with it. And then by 1900s, we were steep into imperialism. And then in World War One, we learned that imperialism, where it leads to. And then back to World War II to drag us back into imperialism, which we are in today, some of the worst imperialism. And we've still got bases in almost every country in this world. And we're still policing the world, which we shouldn't. And it does put a burden on taxpayers. And it does put a burden on families when people have to go to war over silly things that we go to war over. And then when we realize that no of the enemies that we're protecting are no more than just enemies, of which they are. You go to these Middle Eastern countries where they're fighting, you can't really tell a difference between who's evil and who's good, because in the end, they're just going to make the country crap. You see, even Jimmy Carter said the nation is as good as its people. And you go to these countries, what does it say? These countries are crap because their people are crap, because they believe in an ideology that's crap. And once the best way to, if you want to change these people, is not going over there bombing them, is not going over there every day and instilling a war. It would be sending missionaries over there and changing the ideology. It would be those things are more likely to change the countries than what we have. Sending an entertainment industry that will preach the true things instead of the false things and backing what these things. We have a Hollywood that loves the Muslim culture because it's bought by the Muslim culture. Most of the movies today are endorsed by China, which was an enemy in the Korean War. Most of the movies today are backed by people from Dubai, which is the ideology. That's the reason why these people cannot say anything bad about the Muslims, because the fact that these people are backed by Muslim money. Clinton was backed by Muslim money. And of course, I believe that Donald Trump is probably backed by Muslim money by American blacks. And the reason why this is the funniest thing about this, is people did not want to bring up how that the black American Muslims were for Trump. And the reason why they are is because they cannot have a woman over them. They do not. They have segregated meetings where they put women on one side and men on the other. If you want to study about this, why don't you go? You want to talk about racism? You want to talk about segregation? You want to talk about sexism? Watch some of Muhammad Ali's speech. Watch some of Louis Farrakhan's speech. Watch some of Elijah Muhammad's speeches about sexism and racism in this country, because these black Muslims that supported Trump were just as racist as the KKK people that supported Trump. If you want to talk about unity, Trump put together the white KKK supremacists, and they put the black supremacists, which is the black Muslims, who both hate Jews, by the way, put them together to vote for him. So, hey, let's say kudos for the unity that Trump brought to this country. And, here, this whole episode, I think, has been about race. And I as someone who never, ever wanted to talk about it, here I am talking about it. I am talking about race, about something I really don't want to talk about, but I am talking about. I'm saying a lot about it. Maybe I'm getting a lot of this out of my system that needs to be said. And I'm tired of beating this dead horse. And I hope that some of the episodes we can talk about later will be different. But I'm so glad you guys joined me.
We bring the fun because the fun is all night long.